We ask no favor for our sex. We simply ask our brethren to take their feet off our necks. So we are talking about, are quotas constitutional? Well, what does the Constitution have to say about it? The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment says that no person shall be deprived of equal protection of the law. So what does that mean? There's a lot at play there. Well, the Supreme Court has said that even laws that are intending to help people based on immutable characteristics like race or sex should be treated with strict scrutiny. That is, there's reason to be skeptical of any law that makes distinctions on the basis of race or sex because they can very often harm the populations that they're meant to help. As the Supreme Court has said in multiple opinions, there is no such thing as benign discrimination. And therefore, any time that the government draws a line in the sand on the basis of immutable characteristics, courts are going to look at that law with strict scrutiny. Now, there are certain times that the government can engage in race-based or sex-based action. So, for example, the court has said that where states are trying to remedy previous state-sponsored discrimination, they may sometimes engage in remedial actions. But even then, the laws need to be really narrowly tailored to remedying the past discrimination. They've also said in the context of higher education that some affirmative action policies are okay. Schools can take into account race or sex as one of many factors. However, they cannot pursue outright quotas. A quota is a legal requirement that you have a certain number of people in a given place or workspace of a particular race or sex. So quotas are different. They are a unique thing in equal protection law, and they are disallowed. And why is that? Well, first, they treat people as interchangeable members of a group rather than individuals. They assume that it's perfectly fine to switch out a person of a given race or sex for any which reason, rather than saying that people are not simply members of that group, they are unique people with different characteristics, and it's wrong to make assumptions about people based on arbitrary characteristics that they are born into. Second of all, quotas require the very thing that they are purportedly getting rid of, and that is discrimination on the basis of race or sex. It doesn't matter that there's a benign end that the government is trying to achieve. In order to get there, it's perpetuating discrimination. And lastly, quotas can create stereotypes about the groups that they're trying to help. And yet nowadays, in the name of equity, there is an increasing push for quotas. You see things like California passing a law requiring a certain number of women on companies' boards of directors. You see proposals for doling out vaccinations based on race. You see President Biden saying that he is explicitly seeking out people to fill positions based on their race or sex rather than individual characteristics. This flips equal protection on its head. It puts equal numbers above equal treatment, and it reduces individuals to members of the group that they are born into. It elevates things like race or sex, which they're supposed to be arbitrary characteristics that are meaningless, that are irrelevant to how we treat each other. And yet in these laws, we see race or sex being the determinative factor in how people are treated. With California's woman quota for corporate boards, you can see RBG's prophecy coming true, because what does a law like that make you think about women? It makes you think that there must be rampant discrimination on corporate boards and that women are very poorly represented. And yet when you look at the data, it just doesn't back that up. For example, in Q2 of 2019, which was just before the law went into effect, 40% of new board hires were women. Women were basically being hired at parity. Now, it's true that the proportion of women on corporate boards is not quite 50%, but in modern hiring patterns, women are catching up, and it was estimated that without any government intervention, women would have parity on corporate boards by 2038. In a discrimination-free world, you wouldn't expect to see equal numbers everywhere. It depends on people's individual interests and proclivities and how they grew up and what they want to be when they grow up. And so you're going to get disparities even in a completely discrimination-free world. Now, under the quota, if I'm hired, people are going to assume it's because of the quota rather than any of my qualifications and my educational background and my wonderful interview. And that is the result of quotas. It's to denigrate people's accomplishments and to chalk them up to government help rather than attributing it to their individual characteristics. Because the government is unable to justify California's woman quota as remedying discrimination, it has resorted to explicitly stereotypical justifications. For example, it has said that if we have more women on boards, companies will be more productive, they'll have higher profits. It is said that if we have more women, we'll get better policies that are better for women, like higher wages, as if women all think the same and have one working style or one idea about how to run a company. So it's explicitly based on stereotypes about women and should be rejected out of hand for that reason alone. Quotas are a sloppy tool for remedying discrimination. If there's discrimination, we need to get to the root cause of it, which is discrimination. Or if there are systemic barriers, we should address those barriers rather than slapping on a quota, which inevitably is not fixing the root problem, which is benefiting people who were never burdened in the first place, who did not necessarily experience any disadvantage, and which is telling others they need not apply based on their own race or sex. So while it's important to acknowledge discrimination, as Chief Justice Roberts said, the best way to get rid of discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. If you liked this video, please fulfill our quota on likes by sharing with your friends, or check out how we're working to end government-imposed quotas at pacificlegal.org. Fist pump. Girl power.